this right here, this part right here, is the reason why I fell in love with architecture in the first place. When all is said and done, when the invoices have been sent out, when the business part of the firm has been taken care of, for the most part, we architects just really want to design. And in a perfect world, we could do that day in and day out. The thought and the feeling of designing something and watching it come to life is what keeps most of us in the industry. And I will take you through my design process in this part. Now, of course, not every client is receptive to us documenting their design process. And so as I was thinking and brainstorming on which project I should include in this video series, I, at the same time, had a call from one of my very long-term friends who is planning to move out. He's an entrepreneur and they own a warehouse that has been out of use since about 2013. It was the time that the South Sudan war began, and that warehouse was bombed and destroyed during that time, and so it was out of use. And so he has always wanted to turn it into something, either an office or a home. So he called me up and asked me if I could, come up with something. And then I asked him if he was okay with me documenting this whole process, and he agreed to it. So the warehouse currently is in good shape. From the last time that I visited it, it was okay. We had removed the roof sheets, just exposing the current roof structure, which are the trusses. The warehouse is about 6 meters high, but probably going to design something around the 3-meter range. Currently, the structure seems intact. The bombing only destroyed part of the wall and then part of the roof. But the roof structure, most of it is intact. The flooring is intact. The structure columns that run across the warehouse also are intact. Of course, with this information has been verified by the engineer on the ground. So in a nutshell, this is our project. We have a warehouse and we have a client who wants to turn this space more into a productivity space where he could come, to lay his head, and also sort of like a mini office. So let me take you through my design process. Our site is currently located in Juba, South Sudan, in the Tongping area. This is basically our warehouse, which is a rectangle, and it is 27 meters by 20.3 meters. Let's get into the first design iteration. I also had to print this out so that it's easier. So our warehouse, like I said, is a rectangle. This is the south. Here there's a gate that is no longer functioning. It got jammed during the war. And also the the west wall is the wall that was damaged. And then on the north, currently this is the main entrance. And then also we have our water drainage path that comes from the south, zigzags through the west, and then finally comes out on the north. So almost this whole part is currently unusable. So we have our north here, and these are the existing columns, and this is our gate that is jammed. So my client wanted me to use the space between. This is also our existing wall. So the client wanted me to use the space between these two columns. So that's the area we're going to use. And so our first iteration of the design is just a simple rectangle between these two columns, which was just, my client wanted an open plan that was open from the living room, and then the only wall that we would have inside was going to be the wall that was separating the living space from the bedroom. We created a door, but created a partition to block the view as one entered. This would lead into the corridor, and then we have our wall here that led into the bedroom. So with this area, we needed to fix in a living room, a kitchen. He didn't ask for a dining, but I included it. At the entrance, I have a couch that separates the space, and then we have a bigger couch, a three-person couch, a coffee table, and this is going to be his rug. And then in this nook here, we decided to put in our kind of an organic soap. And then on the whole perimeter of this wall, because this is the existing wall and we had a challenge because we couldn't put any openings here, so we literally had to use the length of that whole wall. So what we did is that we stocked this whole perimeter with floor to ceiling bookshelves, and this came up to the middle of the living room, and so these were going to be his bookshelf area. And then we had an extra two meters that we turned into a desk area, almost 2 meters, and he had a seat. And the space right behind the the table, we actually put a whiteboard. And then transitioning into the kitchen, we created another partition, and then this created a kitchen, just a small kitchen with a cooktop and then a sink. All right, and then here we put a 4-seater dining table. So in the first iteration, we only had this main wall that divided the two spaces, and once he entered, we had the bed, and then we also created another small partition. This small partition hid the closet. Initially, this wall was supposed to separate the bathroom from the sleeping space area. So here we had a bathroom initially. After presenting this design to the client, he reminded me of a few site conditions. And this is why it's important that after a design iteration, you meet with the client. So one of the challenges we'd had is that, remember, the warehouse was a rectangle and we were building in this corner. So currently the site has a septic tank towards the northern entrance. Client wanted to keep this septic tank, connecting this septic tank to the bathroom that was at the far south was going to be a problem. So we needed to make design changes to bring this toilet a bit closer to fix the plumbing issues. So what we did is we decided to correct some of the things that we had done, decided to keep the whole layout. And what we did is, at the entrance here, we decided to add a smaller rectangle that opens up into the bathroom. So you enter through the door, you have your bathroom. So remember, we kept everything: living room, our shelf, our table, our kitchen, our dining. In the bedroom, our bed still remained. Our space for the closet also remained. So what we did is that we turned this space also more into a private reading place, where you had maybe a sofa, and then in this corner, an open shelf the height of a dresser with a coffee table and a lamp. Now, one of the challenges that we actually experienced during this whole design is that we could not put any openings along this existing wall, because this acted as the perimeter. So our only option was to bring light in through the western wall. This is one of the things that helped us inform our design. So from the door, we had two big windows of 2 meters by 2 meters that brought light into the living room and the dining area. And then we had one big window that brought light into the living room. Now, to give the kitchen a sense of partitioning, a sense of distinction, and also to allow light, we introduced a chain link fence between the dining and the space. So let's say we have our kitchen, and then we have our dining here, right? So what we did is that we introduced a chain link fence, allow the light that comes through the window trickle into the kitchen. So we have our fence. So with this we know that light that comes in from the western windows will pass through into the kitchen. And also we took this idea and also applied it towards the private readings room that is at the bedroom. Let's sketch out this. So we have our wall here. Behind this wall we have our closet. From here we have our chain link. So in this space we have our table, we have our sofa. So you can see we carried this design element into the bedroom. In the first place, we used it because if we can't open up windows or openings on the eastern wall, it means we have to find a way to bring in light, as much light as possible, from the western windows. So we have a window right by this organic sofa that brings in light from the north. So yeah, that is it. That's our design in a nutshell. After all the design iterations, I have to move my sketches and put them into CAD. And my software of choice is Revit, which is a BIM software. I will probably take you through all the tools and software I use in the 5th part of this series, which will be centered on visualization and documentation. As of now, see you in the 4th part, where we turn our design into a physical model, one of my favorite things to do. See you. Ciao.